I've never been the type to believe in the supernatural or anything like that. I'm a logical person. Things happen for a reason. But after what I went through in the Ouachita National Forest, I don't know what to think anymore. This happened about 3 years ago. I was on a solo camping trip, something I did often to clear my head. I liked being out in the woods, away from everything. Just me, my tent, and the quiet. That weekend, I picked a spot a few miles into the forest, far enough from the main trails that I wouldn't run into anyone, but not so far that I'd get lost. The first day was normal. I set up my tent, made a fire, and cooked some food. I even sat by the fire for a while, just listening to the sounds of the woods. Frogs, crickets, the occasional rustle of a small animal in the bushes. Peaceful. I remember thinking how lucky I was to be out there, disconnected from the world. But that night, something changed. I woke up in the middle of the night, and at first, I didn't know why. My fire had burned down to embers, and the air was still, almost too still. You don't really notice the background noise of the forest until it's gone, and that's what happened. No insects, no night birds, just silence, thick and heavy, like the whole world had paused. Then I heard it, a soft crunch of leaves, slow, deliberate, not like an animal sniffing around, but like footsteps. I held my breath, straining to hear. My first thought was a deer, or maybe another camper who wandered too close. I unzipped my tent just a little and peeked out, but my fire was too low to see anything beyond the faint orange glow. Then something moved at the edge of the trees. It was tall, too tall. A silhouette standing just past the tree line, completely still. At first, I thought maybe my eyes were playing tricks on me, that it was just the shape of a tree or a weird shadow. But then it shifted, just a tiny movement, like it was leaning forward to get a better look at me. I grabbed my flashlight, my heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I hesitated for a second, then flicked it on. The second the beam hit the thing, it moved. Not like a person stepping back, but like the shadows themselves had swallowed it whole. 1 second it was there, the next, it was gone. I sat there, frozen. My whole body felt wired, like every instinct in me was screaming danger. I listened for more footsteps, for anything, but there was nothing. After a while, the forest noises came back. Slowly at first, like whatever had been there was gone now. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. I kept the flashlight in my lap, flinching at every little sound. By morning, I convinced myself it had been my imagination, maybe a trick of the light, or a weird shadow. I packed up, determined to shake off the feeling and enjoy the rest of my trip. But I wasn't alone. I picked up my pace. My goal was to make it back to the main trail before dark, but the faster I walked, the more I saw it, always out of the corner of my eye, following. At one point, I stopped and turned around fast, hoping to catch it. But the second I did, the entire forest felt wrong. The trees seemed taller, stretched, like I had walked into a part of the woods that wasn't supposed to be there. The air was thick, heavy, pressing in on me. Then the smell hit me. It was subtle at first, like damp earth. But it got stronger, rotten, like old leaves mixed with something metallic, something that made my stomach twist. I had the overwhelming urge to run, but I didn't. Something in me said that running would be a mistake, that whatever was watching me was waiting for that. I forced myself to take slow, steady steps forward. I didn't look back. I kept my eyes on the ground, on the path ahead, my breath coming fast and shaky. I picked up my pace. My goal was to make it back to the main trail before dark, but the faster I walked, the more I saw it, always out of the corner of my eye, following. At one point, I stopped and turned around fast, hoping to catch it. But the second I did, the entire forest felt wrong. The trees seemed taller, stretched, like I had walked into a part of the woods that wasn't supposed to be there. The air was thick, heavy, pressing in on me. Then the smell hit me. It was subtle at first, like damp earth. But it got stronger, rotten, like old leaves mixed with something metallic, something that made my stomach twist. I had the overwhelming urge to run, but I didn't. Something in me said that running would be a mistake, that whatever was watching me was waiting for that. I forced myself to take slow, steady steps forward. I didn't look back. I kept my eyes on the ground, on the path ahead, my breath coming fast and shaky. Then, just as suddenly as it had started, the feeling stopped. The air felt normal again. The trees looked like they should. The sounds of the forest returned. I was standing at the edge of the main trail. I don't know how long I stood there, catching my breath, trying to process what had just happened. Part of me wanted to convince myself it had all been in my head. Maybe I was just tired, dehydrated, letting my imagination run wild. But then, I saw them. Footprints. Not mine. Not from any animal I could recognize. They were deep, bigger than my own feet, and spaced too far apart, like whatever made them had taken huge steps. I stared at them for a long time before I forced myself to move. I practically ran the rest of the way back to my car, throwing my gear in without bothering to organize it. The entire drive home, I kept checking my rearview mirror, half expecting to see that thing standing at the tree line. I never went back to that part of the forest. I don't tell this story much because, honestly, I don't know how to explain it. But I do know this. Something was out there, something not right, and it was watching me. I've done a lot of solo hiking. People always tell me it's dangerous, especially as a woman alone. But I never felt like I had anything to worry about. I grew up camping. I know how to read a map, and I always bring enough supplies to last me a few days longer than planned. I thought I was prepared for anything, but I wasn't prepared for this. This happened 3 years ago in the mountains of West Virginia, about an hour outside of Elkins. It was supposed to be an overnight trip. Just me, my tent, and miles of quiet. I parked at the trailhead, hiked for a few hours, and set up camp near a small clearing. The day had been uneventful, even peaceful. Then I got lost. It didn't make sense. I wasn't new to this. I had checked my route multiple times, marked landmarks in my mind, yet somehow I lost the trail. My phone had no signal. The sun was getting lower, and I was getting frustrated. I told myself to stay calm, that I just needed to backtrack. But no matter which way I turned, everything looked unfamiliar. It was like the forest had shifted around me. That's when I saw it. A goat, standing just ahead on the path, perfectly still, watching me. Something about it made my stomach drop. It wasn't afraid of me. It didn't move like a normal animal. It just stood there. At first, I was relieved. Where there were goats, there had to be a farm or people nearby. But the longer I looked at it, the more I felt that something was wrong. Its fur was patchy, uneven, like it had been shedding but never quite stopped. Its eyes were dark, too dark, like there was nothing behind them. Then it tilted its head, not like an animal trying to get a better look, but like a person, like it was curious about me. I took a step back, and then I heard it. A voice, not mine, whispered something right behind me. The words made no sense, low and guttural, layered, like more than one voice speaking at the same time. My whole body went rigid. I wanted to turn around, but I couldn't. It was like my muscles had locked up. Then I blinked, and the goat was standing up. Not rearing back on its hind legs like an animal would, but standing, perfectly balanced, its front limbs hanging at its sides. Like arms. Like it was wearing a suit of skin that didn't quite fit. I felt something move behind me, a shadow shifting between the trees. Then the goat, or whatever it was, opened its mouth. The noise that came out wasn't a bleat, wasn't anything animal. It was words, garbled, broken, spoken in a language I had never heard before. The same twisting voice I had heard behind me, but now it was coming from the goat. It took a step toward me, and then another. I wanted to run, but my legs wouldn't move. Then something else spoke. Not the goat, something bigger, deeper, hidden in the woods. Its voice was heavy, pressing against my skull, making my ears ring. It was speaking to the goat. They were talking. I don't know how I broke free, but the next thing I remember, I was running. Branches tore at my arms. My legs burned. My lungs felt like they were on fire. I don't know how long I ran, but eventually, I tripped and hit the ground hard. When I looked up, I was back on the trail. The real trail. The one I had lost hours ago. But here's the thing. I checked my watch. Less than 10 minutes had passed. That wasn't possible. I had been running for miles. I don't know how I made it back to my car. I don't remember the hike down. 1 second I was standing on the trail, gasping for air, and the next I was behind the wheel, gripping the steering wheel so hard my hands were shaking. I told myself I imagined it, that stress and exhaustion had gotten the best of me. But then I told a local what happened. His face went pale. He told me that others had seen something like it before. A goat that wasn't a goat. And those who got too close, they never came back. I've spent most of my life outdoors. I don't scare easy. I trust my instincts, and I know when something feels wrong. That night in the Green Mountains, that was the first time in my life I felt like I didn't belong in the world around me, like something was trying to pull me somewhere else. It was late October, and I was on a 3-day solo hiking trip before winter set in. The first day was perfect. Cool air, golden leaves, the kind of quiet that makes you feel like you're the only person on Earth. By sundown, I had set up camp near a small stream. The water was loud, rushing over the rocks, and I remember thinking it might keep me awake. But it didn't. I fell asleep fast. Then, in the middle of the night, I woke up. Something was off. I lay still, staring up at the tent fabric, trying to figure it out. Then it hit me. I couldn't hear the stream anymore. No water, no wind, no insects, Nothing. The kind of silence that feels unnatural, like the whole world is holding its breath. I sat up, my chest tight, and reached for my water bottle. That's when I saw it. The water inside was moving, not sloshing like I had knocked it over, vibrating like something was shaking the ground. But I didn't feel anything. No tremors, no sound, just that unnatural stillness pressing in around me. And then I saw the glow. A pale blue-white light flickered between the trees. It was far, maybe 100 yards out, pulsing faintly. I should have stayed in my tent, but something about it pulled at me. I unzipped the flap and stepped outside. The air felt thick, like walking into a room where someone had just been whispering about you. My ears rang faintly, a pressure building in my head. And then I felt it, a force, not pushing, not pulling, but something else, like the space around me was aware. I took a step toward the light, and another. The trees looked different, taller, thinner, leaning toward me. The ground felt uneven, like I was walking uphill when I knew it was flat. I was moving toward that glow, and no matter how much I told myself to stop, my feet kept going. Then I stepped into a clearing, and the world shifted. The air was thick, buzzing with a low hum that I could feel in my teeth. The ground was too smooth, like all the underbrush had been burned away, and at the center, a circle of stones, perfectly arranged, glowing with that same pulsing blue light. I took a breath, and the air pressed back. My chest tightened, my arms felt weightless, and then I started rising, slowly, weightlessly, like something had taken hold of me and was lifting me off the ground. I wasn't jumping, I wasn't falling, I was just floating. My breath hitched, my arms floated upward, my legs dangled, and my body turned slightly, like I was drifting in water. The pressure in my head built until my ears rang so loud I thought they'd burst. Then I heard them. Whispers. Dozens of voices, maybe hundreds, all speaking at once in a language I didn't understand. The words were layered over each other, some slow, some fast, overlapping, twisting together in a way that made my stomach turn. Then the world tilted. Not just me, the entire clearing. I saw the trees shift, the sky twist, the stones stretch and bend. My stomach lurched, like I had been dropped into a different place, a different version of the world, where the rules weren't the same, and something was waiting there. I felt it before I saw it, a presence, watching, not from the trees, not from the sky, from inside me. It was like something had reached into my head, flipping through my thoughts, studying them. Then, snap! I hit the ground hard, gasping for air. The whispers stopped. The ringing faded. The glow was gone.